and welcome to the bond with nature. So, what do flashbacks, nightmares, angry outbursts, and negative thoughts, what do they all have in common? Well, some might discern that these are symptoms of PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. And one way of managing symptoms like these could be nature therapy. Picture yourself on the placid, calm lake, kayaking. The physical exercise of kayaking could release endorphins, making you feel better. And it could improve your mood, making you get a good night's rest. And when you have a good night's rest, the next day is always going to be better. It also requires and sort of hones that rhythm of paddling. You need to learn how to navigate this craft, this kayak, in order to help you focus. And that focus on just that repetitive motion could help you to not dwell on negative thoughts. So if you do not know kayaking, then mastering a new skill would be a fabulous challenge for you to overcome. You see, it could boost your own self-confidence, even if you have physical challenges which make you think that you are not able to go into a kayak. Hang on, we'll address that in a minute. So, if you feel that you have encountered some traumatic episodes and you have a bit of PTSD, this could be a great therapy, an option that you want to consider. Being in a social group will allow you to interact so that you don't feel so alone when you're learning the skill of kayaking. You see, sometimes the feeling of isolation and loneliness can really compound things and make things worse or make it feel worse when it really isn't. Combat veterans and first responders, both are groups that have responded well to kayak therapy. And there's a group called Heroes on the Water, or the abbreviation is HOW, for Heroes on the Water. And Bryan Hildebrandt is going to share with us about how can work in order to help people that have been either first responders or their families, as well as vets and their families, or other people who might have experienced PTSD and want to embrace this sport of kayaking in order to help out. So kayaking helps you reconnect with nature. It helps you bond with the world around you. It helps you both have the time to be alone and reflect while you're on the water, but also be surrounded with a supportive community that can help you at a moment's notice, just as long as you reach out to them. The program right now seems to be free for outdoor programs with the U.S. active duty military, also veterans, law enforcement officers, EMTs, paramedics, firefighters, and a variety of other first responders and their families. The whole thing is organized by volunteers. So these are people that are very dedicated. But let's understand first, how does a first responder and a veteran, how are they alike? Both of them experience exposure to very traumatic events. So they may see violence. They may encounter death up close. They may see serious injury, or they themselves have incurred a serious injury. Both may develop PTSD and other mental health conditions that are a result of this experience or series of experiences. And both may struggle with reintegration into society after they have experienced this trauma. How are they different? A first responder and a veteran could be considered different because their exposure to trauma is different, and that means it may manifest itself differently. So a veteran is often concentrated during a wartime deployment. So once they're in that war atmosphere, then they could trigger a bad memory. But a first responder might actually experience a trauma while they're just doing their regular job. So the separation of their career from the trauma is much more difficult for a first responder. There's also a risk factor to consider. You see, veterans may have additional risks for PTSD, such as a combat injury or witnessing the death of their comrade in arms. The support system for a veteran also seems to be a little bit more built out than it is for first responders. So they have a system where they can seek help with this and be around people who have had the same level of experience, if not the exact same experience, and get support to address that. First-time responders may not always have that formal structure set up. So PTSD in veterans often stems, not always, but often starts from a single and significant event, whereas the police and firefighters may experience what's called cumulative PTSD. And that means it's been accumulating with little bits of exposure over the years with many different incidents. So cumulative PTSD gradually erodes on your mental well-being, whereas over time, post significant challenges to the first responders, and it also is much more difficult to separate from the daily job. This is just what we do, and it's also more difficult to diagnose. Traumatic events can not only affect individuals directly, but it also affects their families and communities, and even their friends. If they receive comments like, "You seem like a changed person," or "You didn't used to be avoiding this regular inert thing," those types of things mean that a trauma has taken hold of that person, and they need tools to cope with it so that they can reintegrate with their friends, their families, and their loved ones. For them, it may feel as if there is no light at the end of the tunnel. The thing happened, their life is forever changed, and it's just downhill from here. And that's not always the case. There is hope. Regular activities such as kayaking, fishing, all of these can provide great releases for that pent-up stress. If you're in a space where other people understand what you're going through, that's incredibly helpful. If they've had an experience just like yours, that's even better because you know that they understand, whereas your family may not understand. They want to, but they haven't been through that same trauma that you have. It's a space where you can get solace, but also you can get healing from the chaos. You can put aside the memories of the violence. You can focus on a peaceful tomorrow. If your job is demanding and you need to set aside time in order to recharge your own batteries, some people might call that self-care. It's focusing and appreciating the now, the what you have today, right here, this moment with you watching me. Even the small things the family does with you, it's showing that you value their effort if you can say that you appreciate some simple task, some everyday mundane thing that's done around the house that you can show that you appreciate will help them feel valued in your life and help them feel as if they're joining you in that journey of healing. So let's discover some other bits of wisdom. And let's have a chat with Bryan from Heroes on the Water and see how he loves interacting with nature, kayaking, and maybe how dogs might be interacting with kayaks. So let's go ahead and have a chat right after these messages. We'll take a short break, but stay tuned. And welcome back. We are delighted to have a video conference with Bryan with Heroes on the Water. Bryan, are you able to hear me?
Yes. I am able to hear you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. Our viewers are really interested in understanding a little bit more about your organization. Would you be able to just tell me in a few words what type of therapy it offers and why that's important?
Absolutely. So Heroes on the Water is an organization that essentially provides recreational wellness for veterans, first responders, and their families. Basically, that their job is to give them the opportunity to go kayak fishing and out in the open on the water, different bodies of water that they get the opportunity to experience in a new environment. So it keeps it pressure free for them. So they don't feel obligated to be a part of it. So that's, one of those things that really helps out. So they
Okay.
can ease right into it.
Well, how do you get people who are unfamiliar or a little hesitant about water, if it's one of their fears, how do you get them acclimated to doing an outdoor activity like that?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. It boils down to the individual themselves and their willingness to move forward into wanting to experience the sport, and it's really on their own pace. We
Okay.
provide them information. We even show them out, examples
Like
of kite
coaching?
fishing on the water right in front of them, so they can
Hmm.
see. And then there's other people there that are experienced in the sport that give them that confidence to take the step forward and want to commit and get out there on the water.
Well, that's really interesting. Do you have any personal stories that come to mind? Any anecdotes?
It's an interesting story for me. This month, I was telling you earlier that um, during the first invasion in Iraq, when I was there,
Hmm.
my crew chief and I were blown up. And on April 12th this year, in 2024, was the 21-year anniversary, or anniversary, I wouldn't want to call it that, but to the day where
Hmm.
that event had happened. And the reason why I bring that up is Chad Taylor was my crew chief. He just recently reached out to me a few years back
Hmm.
to say that I inspired him with the involvement that I'm in my community for Heroes on the Water,
Hmm.
where now he uses kayak fishing as a healing event. So
Ah,
that alone was amazing because he lives in Montana and I live here in California.
right,
And
right.
having that connection still and seeing him move forward into kayak fishing was one of those things that keeps me going out there on the water with these guys.
So that's interesting. So it's a very widespread type of therapy, almost, where
Correct.
it goes from
Correct.
Michigan to California. So
Yes.
how widespread is Heroes on the Water? Is it
So here's
nationwide or?
yeah, oh yeah, Heroes on the Water is nationwide. You have chapters through all the country. Um, I and myself and another friend of mine, his name's Ryan Plummer.
Hmm.
He's an active duty staff sergeant in the Marine Corps. He's our president. And he just recently came home from Okinawa, and I tried to help him and his wife, and run our chapter. And we run the Oceanside chapter down here in California, San Diego area.
Okay, okay.
But there's chapters. There's a Northern California chapter. There's chapters up north in Washington and
Hmm.
Oregon, and then all the way to Florida.
Wow.
So it's a nationwide program. So anybody in the area that they're in, they can reach out and find their local chapter.
Can,
And
if
be
they
a
want
part
to
of
get
it.
involved. Now, is it just for first responders? Is it just for vets? Is it like
No,
how many,
actually, it's
what
not.
people?
It's actually we have an open door policy for our first responders,
Oh,
our
really?
veterans, and their families too,
So their
because their
kids
families'
can join.
involvement is just as important as the healing of the veteran or first responder. So we
Hmm.
want to make sure that the family is just as involved as they are.
So as long as you're inviting the families, do you also invite the family dog or?
Yes, so
Okay.
that's interesting. You bring that up. So we as a nonprofit, and when we get together with these veterans, the
Hmm.
veterans that have service dogs with disabilities are a process that those individuals go through on their one-on-one trainer dogs
Hmm.
and whoever they utilize in order for them to get comfortable with that service dog.
Hmm.
However, we as a program, we don't train animals or people as far as the dog handling is concerned. Those are taken amongst those individuals and professionals.
The
But we
training,
do
the
provide
training.
the platforms.
So
Okay,
wait,
so
so let me see if I understand. So the training is not done by your organization,
it is
but
not, no.
you do provide, when you're saying the platforms, are you talking about a retrofitted kayak to hold a dog?
Correct. Yes, I am.
You
Yes, I
are.
am.
Okay,
So
tell me
we
more.
do have the capabilities of supporting someone that has a disability, that has a service animal. We
Hmm.
have kayaks that have platforms that are wide enough to pull the canine on it, and that veteran can pedal around. We have pedal drive platform kayaks that are ocean sustainable. So these individuals can take a decent sized dog that they literally have that trust and confidence with, and get
Of
on
course.
that kayak and literally go out there on the water and fish together, and you'd be surprised the connection that the two of them have.
That is
So our job is
fantastic.
really transparent. Our job is transparent. It's just to make sure that we provide that wellness with them, their service dog, their kayak, and then even a mentor, just so they're comfortable while they're on the water.
So what is involved with making a retrofitted kayak? And I'm assuming, do you also give the dog a life jacket, or, I mean, is it,
So
or do they
yes,
have their own
so
paddles?
yeah, that's of course that's important. Most service dogs that are trained and have someone that they're attached to have a vest they walk around, so people
Right.
can identify them. Hey, that's a service dog. Can I have permission to touch it? There are floating apparatus for animals that we provide, that we have, that we can give to that animal, so they make sure that they're if you know, hypothetically the dog gets excited and jumps in the water, you know, they'll be fine with the jacket that they would be wearing.
Okay.
But and also our rules and regulations in our program is that it's mandatory to wear safety equipment while you're out in the water, which means a personal flotation device and a radio.
So, oh, that's interesting. So the human has the radio, I'm assuming, and
Correct.
the dog has the
No,
life.
the dog has the radio.
Yeah, the dog has a radio, so he's the one that communicates with people on shore.
Yeah.
No, but so the dog is equipped with a vest, and maybe I mean, you're not whitewater rafting in a kayak, are you?
No.
Okay, so
No,
you're
no, no,
staying
no.
on
So
calm,
that's
placid
another
lakes?
good question. That's because a lot of people have this skepticism about recreational kayaking, because a lot of those boats that are made are really unstable, and you feel unsafe and you tip over.
Exactly.
The boats that we use, right? The boats that we use are donated. So everything we get is donated, and we screen all the gear to make sure it's serviceable and works. And we ask people to, you know, donate serviceable kayaks that are, you know, enough to sustain a bigger fella, because, you know, us old guys, the older we get, the more heavier we get. So we have to have decent sized, stable platforms for these guys to fish on.
Right, right. So in addition with the funding that you need, or the volunteers that you seek for either funding with donations or a donation of time, and how you go about that, we also talked, I want to talk about the effect of water on a person. How soothing is it? How therapeutic is it as you're using nature as one of the tools? Could you get into that a little bit?
Yeah, so like the blue water mines, where you want to be in or around or close to water.
Okay.
And essentially what that does is it gives us the opportunity to get happier and have better wellness. So being around the water is extremely important as far as when it comes to the human body.
So it's really sort of not only a soothing effect, but it also mentally gets you a little bit more balanced. When you're feeling stressed, just hearing those natural sounds, they sort of, you know, if you come from a noisy place like the jackhammer on the sidewalk and the cars whizzing by on the intersection, it can be a little unnerving, a little stress inducing, because you have this constant bombardment of unnatural sounds. So it sounds like what you're saying is when you go into a natural setting, like a lake or something very placid, that actually is very soothing and can help you not focus on your troubles and instead focus on what could be, the possibility, sort of meditate, use that rhythm of the water lapping or the paddle to do something that sort of centers you. Is that right? Did I get that right?
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's all about wellness, mentally, emotionally, you know, and having that connection with the water and those natural sounds that you hear. And, you know, just to go off what you were saying, and those city noises, and being able to disconnect from that and get those natural sounds is the most important thing for healing your mind.
So do you think that being on the water, connecting with nature, that bond with nature, can actually help some people who have suffered through a traumatic event or long-term event actually reconnect with the people in their world? Because I know sometimes after you've had an event like that, you the people around you say that you're not the same person that they used to know. And so
Yes,
how do you get that connection back?
it obviously it starts within the community. You know, you have to have those other individuals that are eager to do this with you. It's a team effort, and those are important roles to have in the group. Guys are pretty significantly important when it comes to the wellness of, hey, we need to make sure we get these people on the water, because if we lose contact with them, then we lose them. It's one of those. Does that make sense? You know, to
Yeah.
where, you know, especially with somebody who has mental health issues, if they're alone, a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, they're thinking of the worst thing. So
Of
when you
course.
have that continuity and that connectivity and that cross pollination with somebody else that you suffered with on the battlefield or on the line of duty as an officer, you can have that connection and be able to leapfrog off each other and be better and get better. And that's really the strive and the goal of this, is just to build a good community, the families and the veterans and first responders, and just continue to grow and show this amazing sport and the opportunity to heal on the water. I mean, that's the biggest thing that we try to push.
So if someone is feeling edgy or anxious, or they have outbursts, or they feel depressed, or they just don't take interest in the things that they once did, and they want to mentally, they know they want to get back to that place. They want to reconnect with their family, their friends, but they're just not able to. They're feeling a little withdrawn. It sounds like being able to welcome them with their dog, if they have one, and then welcome that unit into a kayak and give them the space, give them the solitude that they need, but also let them know that a network is there for them if they want it, but it's not forced upon them.
Absolutely. Like, for example, if a gentleman has, a social anxiety issue and he shows up to the event, if he just wants to hang out on the beach and not go out in the water and just socialize, he's more than welcome to do that. This is all for them to do it at their pace. There's no pressure. There's no obligation. All it is for a person like me to open an ear and just say, hey, let it off your chest, brother. What's going on? You know, that's it. And their pace is their pace.
Now, what if they have the desire, but they feel like physically they can't? Whether it's because they actually have a physical disability or mentally they're just afraid. How do you address somebody who maybe has an issue with their legs? They don't work as well as they used to. They want to kayak, but they don't think they can. They just don't think it's possible.
So that's a really good question. And again, we have individuals that are part of our team, part of Heroes on the Water in our chapter, that have experienced, being disabled and being able to be on the water with somebody. So their job is to not necessarily coach, but show them examples, and really it's about building their morale and giving them the motivation to say, you know what, let's take a shot. Let me get on that kayak and give it an opportunity for me to prove myself wrong. And there's so much mentoring that goes on within the group. It's pretty amazing, and we like to share our experiences with everybody, regardless. And I think our experiences alone really kind of have that person say, you know what, if he can do it, I'm going to do it too. It gives them that
confidence?
edge to, yes. And it never fails. We don't have, we have no issues with not having enough individuals wanting to get out of the water.
So you have people who want to partake of your services, essentially offering kayaks to people and their dogs. But do you have enough volunteers to help manage these events that are free, from what I understand? They're welcoming, you don't charge dues?
No, everything is all volunteer based. So anybody who mentors, anybody who is involved in a chapter, who has a role, a treasurer, or whatever chapter role they hold, it's all volunteer. So there's no You don't have to feel entitled. You don't have to feel obligated. And if you want the role, then, hold yourself accountable and do your role and honor the heroes on the water. We have a manual, and, we encourage people to view it and make sure that they understand the policies and how we make sure that we have a safe evolution for these guys and everybody comes off the water happy and
Inspired.
we've impacted their life. That really inspired. That's really, really the goal. And like I said, we really have a good success rate. There's never really any negative outcome. And it's a wonderful time with these guys.
So in the last minute that we have together, is there anything else that you would like to share with our viewers as far as how they could contact you, or any other tidbits that I might not have covered?
Yes, actually, if you're the type of person who wants to take a step out of your comfort zone, and want to leave the house, and you're stressed and, disconnect, we have a family of people that are going through what you're going through. We may not be better, we may not be worse, but we're going to be here at the end, and we're going to help you get to the goal that you wanted to be emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, whatever the course we're going to get you there. Heroes on the Water provides that opportunity. You can reach us at heroesonthewater.org. And you can sign up and see when we have our events through the chapters in your location, and get the ball rolling, get on their social media site, and basically reconnect with your community and try to get yourself self-centered.
I think that's fantastic. So Heroes on the Water welcomes both participants and also volunteers of all sorts to help out in all areas, it sounds like. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you so much, Bryan, for taking the time out to share with our audience about this fantastic resource, this new way of bonding with nature. We really appreciate the time you talked with us, with your sharing your expertise. And also, I love the fact that you can include dogs in the kayaks and make the extra effort to make sure that they're safe also. So thank you so much for taking the time out. And we look forward to the next time that we can chat. We'll be right back after this break. Stay with us. Bryan had some fantastic insights. You see, Heroes on the Water has helped veterans and anybody else who is in need of healing to help them rediscover that peace that they once had, to help them connect, to help them reintegrate into their own families and friend circles that they knew and loved and cherished before the incident or series of incidents. So it's clear that kayaking actually offers more than just regular physical exercise. It's the combination of being on the water. It's the calming environment. It's the camaraderie of the other people around you. It's the solitude you can have when you're in your individual kayak. It's the sense that fellow veterans or others can help join you in this healing journey. The effort of training a dog to work on a kayak shows just how much this organization, Heroes on the Water, values their four-legged companions, and they understand how important that dog is to its human companion. So kayaking is a unique blend of both physical activity, a calming environment, the rhythm of the paddling in order to help you focus on something and displace all of those negative thoughts. And it's also an opportunity to connect with nature, all of which can significantly reduce those PTSD symptoms. So what are some of the symptoms? Just as a recap, flashbacks, avoiding things that remind you of that trauma, even if they're everyday things, negative feelings, feeling edgy or jumpy, some difficulty in sleeping. There might even be some difficulty in concentrating or thinking, feeling angry or having just sudden outbursts, feeling detached or numb, not enjoying the things that you used to enjoy, and even feelings of being ashamed or having survivor's guilt. So remember, even if you personally have not served as a first responder or as a vet, The power of nature to heal and connect you and take that first step of going outdoors is really powerful. So even if you have experienced your own personal trauma, you might want to consider an outdoor activity. Take a walk, go to the park, go for a hike, maybe even try kayaking. Consider volunteering. If you want to support veterans and first responders, you could volunteer at Heroes on Water. And consider helping others or other organizations that might be closer to you. You might be surprised at that positive impact that you have when you volunteer to help others on their journey in healing. It helps them get a better sense of well-being. It helps you get a better sense of well-being, and it makes you feel a little bit more accomplished. Learning how Heroes on the Water is not just helping veterans, but also helping them heal and helping them foster that sense of community is really heartwarming that they have that shared purpose. It's commendable. And if you want to be part of their journey, that's commendable for you as well. So maybe you do want to volunteer. Maybe you just want to subscribe to their newsletter or partake of their services or even help them promote. Healing and bonding with nature is important. So whether you're a veteran, a family member of a veteran, or a first responder, or you just want to seek that sense of peace, spend time outdoors. It can be incredibly beneficial. So take a walk in the park, go for a hike, go kayaking, and remember that helping yourself helps others. It helps you build those extra reserves that you need to help care for others around you, to help care for your community and for your world. There's an entire expanse of nature out there waiting to be explored by you. Maybe it's in a kayak, maybe not, but now is the time to check it out and see if this is the transformation that you have been seeking. So I want to thank you for joining me in this exploration of healing with Heroes on the Water. And I really appreciate the time that you took out of your day, by the way, to spend time with me in our conversation. I really genuinely appreciate it. And I really hope that this has inspired you in some way. Until we bond again,